sit down. Good morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of the Emerald Coast. My name is Amanda Pyburn. I'm a member here and will be your service leader this morning on this day of new beginnings. We gather on the unceded lands of the Muskogee Nation of Florida. We are grateful for the land and for those who tended it before us. If you're visiting today, we especially welcome you. You can learn more about us on the back of your order of service, and there's a lot of information on our website, uufec.com. We look forward to visiting with you after the service. You have found here a safe space where you are among friends. Whatever your background, if you are looking for acceptance, if you are searching for a theology that speaks to you, if you're willing to work toward a more just world, this is the place for you. Here, your views are respected, your questions are thoughtfully considered, and your presence is always welcome. Announcements are listed in the order of service, along with description of upcoming services. You'll notice that Rev Kathy will be here again next Sunday. She's coming all the way down from Virginia, so we get 2 Sundays in a row. So be sure to come back then. And Jane would like to give some announcements.
Good morning. My name's Jane Park. I'm co-chair with Stacy Shanks of the Social Justice Committee. And I just wanted to, there's an announcement in your order of service about a vigil on Friday, but it's a little vague about details. So come see me after the service for details. I won't share them right now. You also, another vague thing was that we're doing cats and dogs for our next quarter fundraiser, and we're still working on the details, but thanks to Stacy, we do have a list of donation items on the social justice bulletin board, so please take a peek there. Thank you.
I also want to draw your attention to the announcement about Wednesday, this Wednesday. If you are free at lunchtime and you want to come back at 11:30, Reverend Kathy will be here. You can bring your lunch or not, whichever. And it's just a time for a casual conversation. Ask her your questions. She may ask you her questions. So check that out as well. Today, after the service, instead of our normal coffee and conversation and then our second hour small discussion groups, instead we're having a more informal coffee and cake with the minister time. We're going to meet in the tables in the back, have a cup of coffee, a piece of cake, maybe some other treats, and have a chance to get to know Reverend Kathy better. So that's our after the service. And even if you've never been here before, by all means, stay so we can get to know you too. And now the prelude prepares us for the service. The prelude today is for everyone. The words are going to be on the screen. You can stay seated if you like. It's a very simple melody. We think you'll like it, called We Stand on Holy Ground. is going to light our chalice. We call forth the life of our faith by igniting our chalice. This spark of new beginnings invites us into a sacred space to reflect where we have been and where we are going. Even knowing that this particular flame will intentionally end with our ritual extinguishing, we fear not its end. For we know with brave hearts that from every ending of our lives, we are sent forth to make a new beginning. Today is such a day of new beginnings.
The opening words this morning are adapted from Davidson lore. This is a sacred place, this place, and a sacred time, this time. A time when you may hear questions more profound than any answers. A time when you may experience a vulnerability more powerful than any strength. A time when you may come to a peace that passes any understanding. This is a sacred place, this place, and a sacred time, this time. So we begin this time with singing. Our first hymn in the Great Hymnal is number 347, Gather the Spirit. Please rise in body or spirit as we sing. At this time, I want to invite any of our young people to come up, and if you have your backpack with you, bring that along too. And Josh and I have some things to say to you about those backpacks you carry.
Thank you. All right, kids, and I mean you too, Julian. He may be tall, but don't forget, he told me he's not even a junior yet, he's a sophomore. We're going to do something special today. I want you to put on your backpacks if you can, and if you don't have one, I want you guys to come up here and stand. There's a backpack for you. And if you come up here and stand and look out at the congregation here. Shua, come on, buddy. There you go. All right. I want you to stand up here with us, and I want you to look around at all of the faces looking at you now. There they are. People you know and people you may not know yet. And I want you to know that they love you and that they will be with you on the bus, in the hallway, in the lunchroom, and on the playground, in your classrooms and your home schools too. They will be with you in your heart, loving you, and cheering you on. You can remember us whenever you need us, because we're going to give you your very own Heartstone. And these come from our RE room. They've been blessed by many children already, I promise. And whenever you feel like you need our love and our spirit, even if we can't be there with you all the time, you can hold your stone in your hand and know that we are cheering you on.
And now we have a prayer for you. Spirit of life and of love, be with our children as they journey out from us. Fill their hearts with courage and strength and tenderness. Help them to tell their truth about who they are in all that they see. Help us to listen in a way that lets them speak. Be with all of us whose hearts break for the backpacks not taken up tomorrow. Help us all to reach out using our minds and bodies and words, trusting our wise and growing hearts to truly make our classrooms, our workplaces, our homes, our churches, and our world safe and nurturing places for all. Spirit of life and love, fill us all with courage and help us to know that wherever we may go, we go in love. May it be so. Amen.
Really quickly, too, I forgot one thing, and that is I would like to welcome Rachel up here, who is a first-time teacher and who is also going back to school. And normally we would take the kids out of here, but since it's only my kids and our big Julian, I think we're going to stay and hear what our new minister has to tell us. So let's go see.
The sharing of joys, milestones, and concerns is a tradition in our fellowship. You're welcome to come up, drop a glass pebble into the bowl of water either silently or while speaking a few words into the microphone. This practice shares our joys and helps us support each other in sorrows. Remember to tell about others only with their permission. This is a sacred time for us. And now I'm pleased to introduce the Reverend Dr. Kathy Hurt.
Before I begin the sermon, I want to say just what a pleasure it has been for me as each step of the journey that you made towards me and I made towards you has unfolded. That just an ongoing, for me, an ongoing discovery of the depth, the wisdom, and the joy in this congregation. And now this morning, to get to see all your faces in this setting is just sort of it's like the conclusion of that stage of the journey and the beginning of our next stage, in which we're no longer me coming from one place and you coming from another, but now we journey together. You may be familiar with the Zen Buddhist story as it shows up often in Unitarian Universalist services. A person is out walking a mountain trail. At some point, a tiger spots that person and begins chasing them. The person runs, stumbles, falls over the edge of a cliff, but is able to grab hold of a bush on the side of the cliff to break their fall. But immediately, the bush starts to pull away from the side of the cliff, one root at a time. The person is still hanging on, looks up to see the tiger above them, the canyon they would fall into below them, and then notices that on that bush they're clinging to so desperately is a single ripe strawberry. So they let go with one hand, pluck the strawberry, and eat it. And how very sweet it tasted. Less familiar, perhaps, is the Unitarian Universalist version of that story. In this version, a UU was walking a mountain trail. A tiger spotted them and chased them. They ran, they stumbled over the edge of the cliff, grabbed hold of a bush to break their fall. But at this point here, the story changes, for the Unitarian Universalist begins to pray. Well, God, or whatever name you prefer, and I don't know what pronouns you prefer, but we can take that up another day because I'm in a really bad spot here. So if you, whoever you are, if you could set aside the fact that I haven't really prayed before and just help me out here, I'll be better about praying in the future. Much to the Unitarian Universalist's surprise, a voice responds, a rich, resonant voice saying, "You must have faith and let go." The Unitarian Universalist looks up at the tiger still on the ledge above, the canyon below they would fall into if they did as the voice commanded, and says, "Is there someone else I can talk to?" And that is typical of many of us, many people who come to Unitarian Universalism, namely that we don't automatically accept any authority, not even the authority of what may be called God. This is something that ministers have to learn and relearn and learn once more each time we begin work with a new congregation. And a lot of the tensions around authority come from varying perspectives. As a mentor once explained to me, a minister is a walking Rorschach blot. As such, you're going to be the target of your congregation's projections. And this goes both ways, for the congregation will be a Rorschach blot for you. Both of you will be placing projections on each other. You and I are in the first stage of our journey together as minister and congregation. We bring to this journey myriad expectations, wondering whether each will live up to the reputation that has preceded us, or perhaps fearing the other will live up to the reputation that has preceded us. And with myriad anxieties, wondering just how is this going to work, especially being in a hybrid arrangement. Wondering who has authority over what and when and why. Wondering whether our partnership will work at all. Wondering whether we will find our partnership bringing satisfaction and growth along with the predictable challenges, or just one challenge after another. Expectations and anxieties on both sides are laced with projections that can make it difficult to distinguish the reality from the perception, the minister and the congregation from the Rorschach blot. How can you know whether you see the person or the projection, the Rorschach or the reality? Am I seeing you as the congregation you are today, rather than some version of other congregations I've known? Are you seeing me as the minister I am today, and not a version of other ministers you've known? For in order for us to do good ministry together, it seems crucial that we be able to see just who it is we're dealing with. You've been without a minister for some time now. And while you've kept growing and working well as a congregation, still there can be a sense of drifting when a congregation is accustomed to the presence of a minister and is engaged in a search process for new ministerial leadership. Things get put on hold until the minister comes. Sometimes in that gap, congregations may feel a bit lost, as though they're losing time, losing energy, losing focus that can seem to be more present when a minister is around. And yet, being lost may be the whole point. For being lost is a significant spiritual experience, not an experience we want, but an experience that we seem to need. And compounding any sense of lostness as a congregation is the current tumult in our larger community and in our country, where tariffs are set and lifted, where raids are made without rationale or compassion on immigrants who then disappear, where leadership sets off chaos instead of clarity, where on all sides we see yet another institution, another guardrail, another promise, another fundamental right thrown away. There are days that being lost seems like the only reality. I once was lost, but now I'm found. We sing those words, often with some emotion, in that most familiar of hymns, Amazing Grace. Composed by John Newton after an experience of nearly being lost in a storm at sea, and after a lifetime of his being lost in a series of bad business ventures and unhappy relationships, the hymn celebrates the wonder of being found. How sweet it is to be found when being lost was all there was. I once was lost, but now I'm found. I've been lost more times than I care to remember, which is probably why I tend to sing Amazing Grace with a fierce gratitude for being found. Sometimes I was only slightly lost, like most recently when I accepted your job and set about learning names and faces, or when I traveled here and kept relying on my GPS and still got lost. Making my way through this particular time of not knowing, of being lost, just as quickly as possible. Other times my lostness was deeper and more painful. as when I was lost following the end of my marriage, or lost following my exit from childhood religious traditions and the comfort and familiarity they brought. And sometimes I have been lost so thoroughly and for such a long time that I began to fear I would be lost forever. I've been lost in my life when I could not find a ministry that called to me. I've been lost in my heart when I fell into the dark space of depression. Each time when I was found once more, whatever form that experience of being found took, I felt the relief and energy of finally knowing who I was and where I was going and why. Being found is indeed, as the hymn says, one of life's greatest blessings, well worth singing about and celebrating. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Former Episcopal priest Barbara Brown Taylor, in a series of reflections on spiritual practices in her book An Altar in the World, makes the argument that being lost itself, not being found, but being lost, can be an important spiritual experience, the sort of experience actually worth seeking out from time to time. Well, she begins innocently enough, describing getting lost on purpose on her drive to work, or straying from the path while wandering around her farm property. Taylor moves on to those experiences of lostness that knock the legs out from under us, that scare us to death, remind us of how tentative life can be, how precarious our existence is, how little control we have over what happens. And then she has the temerity to celebrate that experience, saying, "You are exquisitely vulnerable in this moment when you're thoroughly, completely lost. You are vulnerable to this moment. Your carefully maintained safety net has ripped. Your expensive armor has sprung a leak. You are in need of help, and this awareness is not a bad thing. There is something holy in this moment of knowing just how perishable you are. It is part of the truth about being human, however hard most of us work not to know that." Think about singing Amazing Grace, which we will do later in the service, about your own times of being found, and ask yourself, could you summon the same response for your times of being lost? Could you sing about them with the same emotion as you sing about being found? Does the experience of being lost have its own intrinsic meaning, or is it only meaningful when it opens up to the experience of being found? There's a thread you follow. It goes among things that change, but it doesn't change. People wonder about what you're pursuing. You have to explain about the thread, but it is hard for others to see. While you hold it, you can't get lost. Tragedies happen. People get hurt or die, and you suffer and grow old. Nothing you do can stop time's unfolding. You don't ever let go of the thread. William Stafford's poem, The Way It Is, suggests that in order not to be lost, one must hold on to a thread. He assures that while you hold the thread, you can't get lost. And that thread is constant, the one unchanging thing among all things that do change. What is your thread? What do you hold fast to in order not to get lost? And when you do lose your way, does that mean you somehow lost your hold on your thread? And if so, how do you recover? How do you pick it up again? Stafford's poem often shows up in discussions of vocation and calling, of considering what it is that draws us out of safety and habit and routine into larger lives of purpose. What draws you forward, especially on days when you want to pull the covers over your head and stay where you are? Stafford does not promise the thread we follow will keep us immune from suffering. For all the while we hold fast to our thread, we will see loss, tragedy, aging, death. But if we are to remain true to what matters most through all those challenges, holding fast to our thread will be crucial. Our new Unitarian Universalist Article 2 places love as our collective thread, with all our values and commitments arising from that love. Does that resonate with you here? Is love the thread that keeps this congregation from losing its way? Is love what gets you back on track when you do get lost? Given how much hatred surrounds us presently, how leaders more often model cruelty than compassion, it can be hard not to get caught up in that same spirit, to drop the thread of love and our responses to all the meanness around us. It can be hard to believe that the slender thread of love might yet carry us through this time to a better time. But holding fast to our collective thread, if Stafford is right, is the one thing that can keep us from getting lost in this storm. My own personal thread, which I've dropped often and then had to figure out how to pick up again, is a version of the first Unitarian Universalist principle, which affirms we are all persons of inherent worth and dignity. Whether because I grew up in a church which affirmed we are all persons of abiding sinfulness, or because of a family system which insisted I had to prove my worth because it was not just given to me, or because our culture gives us constant messages about our value being connected to what we do, how busy we are, what we earn, what we produce, I have most needed a thread to tell me that even when I was unproductive and failing and had little to show for my life, I was still always a person of worth, everlasting worth, worthy no matter what else was happening, no matter what else I was doing. So long as I hold fast to that thread, I believe I can face whatever comes my way. So long as you hold fast to your own individual thread, you can face whatever comes your way. So long as we together hold fast to our thread of love, we can face whatever these painful times bring. The thread does not guarantee against getting lost, but it does make possible being found, finding a way through chaos and confusion to level ground once more. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Barbara Brown Taylor regards experiences of being lost as fundamental lessons in trust. She writes, "The practice of getting lost has nothing to do with wanting to go there. It is something that happens, like it or not. You lose your job, your spouse leaves, you lose your home, a loved one dies. At this point, the practice of getting lost consists of consenting to be lost, since you have no other choice. The consenting itself becomes your choice, as it allows you to, picking it up again, discovering that we can ask strangers for help and believe they will respond with compassion, discovering that we can risk resources, including congregational resources, and being willing to fail as part of the process of growing this fellowship, where we can sink into depths and trust that an abiding love will be just as present in those depths as in times of success and happiness. I once was lost, but now I'm found. I, of course, will always prefer being found. And I, of course, will always do everything I can not to get lost. That lost experience is impossibly difficult for me because I am someone who sets a high priority on remaining in control of my life at all times, in all circumstances. Yet here we are, you and I, beginning a new ministry together at a moment when our culture is deeply troubling and seems thoroughly lost. We began with projections and anxieties and expectations all around us, and we set off together to see if we can work in creative ways to build this beloved community that so engages us and frustrates us and cares for us and calls us to be our best selves within these walls and out in the world. We will likely get lost, drop the threads we follow and need to pick them up again, likely find our capacity for trust challenged, trust in ourselves, trust in one another, trust in the possibility of a sacred power that is promised to show up in our midst if there are only 2 or 3 of us. May we never let go of the thread. May we never lose sight of one another. And may we trust that with our willingness to be lost, we are already on our way to being found. May it be so. Amen. And of course, after all this, our last hymn has to be Amazing Grace. Number 205 in the gray hymnal, and we'll do verses 1, 2, and 3. Please rise in body or spirit as we sing.
Martin Luther King said that we don't have to see the entire whole staircase rising above us in order to take the first step. We just set out. Take that first step in faith and see where it leads. That's what this new school year, this new church year, this new ministry with Rev Kathy feels like for us. A climb, step by step, up a new staircase. May we all climb it together with joyful hearts.
The words of the benediction are often used in the closing of services at one of our sibling congregations, the First Unitarian Universalist Church of Dallas. In the name of all those present here today and all those absent, in the name of all those we have known and those we have forgotten, in the name of all those we have remembered and all those who never came our way, and in the name of all the helpers of humanity who have already lived and are yet to come, Shalom, Salam, Namaste, blessed be, Amen. Please stay seated for the postlude.
Thank you all for coming, and please stay for coffee, cake, and conversation. See you next week.